Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we bring you information about important and exciting things that are happening right here in this community, and of course today will be no different. Our topic today is both a sober topic as well as one that is full of hope and inspiration. And my guest today is the founder of an organization that is clearly designed to make a difference based on a life circumstance that was life-changing. My guest today is Justin Lockett. Justin, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Mr. Anderson. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Please call me Kenny. This is a very informal conversation. I appreciate the respect, but I also respect what you're doing, and I think that this can just be a great conversation to let people who may not already know about your story learn a little bit about that.
Thank you.
The Jarrod Michael Lockett Foundation, a foundation that you founded in 2013?
Yes.
Tell us what the genesis of that was.
So in 2012, December, my brother was shot and killed. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I started realizing what wasn't important in life and things that really were important in life. And it shifted my focus in a lot of ways. And I decided that I wanted to take a stance to not just forget my brother, but remember him and make a change. And so we created the foundation. We wanted to take a stand against gun violence, especially in my community. And we've started working, we visit schools, we speak out, we reach families, and we spend a lot of time mentoring young people to realize their value. And I believe that when you value yourself and you love yourself, it's easier to find value and love your brothers and others in your community.
Absolutely. And of course, none of us are strangers to gun violence and homicide and some of the challenges caused by that. No one ever imagines what that will be like for oneself. What was that journey like for you and your family?
It was difficult. We never thought it would happen, especially someone like Jarrod. For me, I struggled because immediately you want to become angry, enraged, you want to retaliate, you want to get revenge. But it wasn't until the day that he passed when a police officer talked to me and he looked at me and said, "Your family can't afford to lose another son, right? We don't need that to happen." And so it hit me for a while. I saw my mom and my dad and the unimaginable pain of losing a son, losing a child. I was 25 years old at the time, and I sat and reflected, and I thought to myself, I'll never be able to bring my brother back, but there are a lot of young people who I can save. And another moment that really got with me was when we were in the courtroom, and when they sentenced those who murdered my brother, it really didn't make me feel any better. I still felt like everybody in the room was losing because we lost our son, brother, but they lost their children also. And it felt like everybody was a loser. And I wanted to turn that situation into something positive, and that's where we came up with these ideas.
Turning a loss into a win.
Yes, sir.
Very powerful experience. What was your relationship like? This was your younger brother?
It's my younger brother.
What was your relationship like with him?
It was funny. We had a lot of sibling rivalries. I think he brought the best out of me. He found a lot of things in life easy. He smiled a lot, he excelled in the classroom, and it's actually who he was that actually made it where we impact the students and focus on education because he was such a standout in the classroom. We stayed up late nights playing video games, talked about girls, fashion, sports. He was a huge Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Garnett fan, big Lil Wayne fan. So we had a lot of fun, but at the same time, two brothers competing at life to be the best that we could be, we brought the best out of each other. And I feel like even though he's gone, he's still present with me and he still finds ways to bring the best out of me today.
Yeah, and I know, of course, your dad.
Yes.
We both are in an organization that focuses on mentoring. I know this had to be very difficult for your parents, but I get the sense from just knowing your dad, knowing a little bit about you, and then hearing a little bit about your story, that you were a pretty close-knit family.
Yes.
And that this had to be challenging in a way that was completely unanticipated, but the opportunity to reverse that and create a more positive outcome has been a very meaningful thing. The foundation itself, and I know you do a lot of mentoring, you do a lot of work in the community through this process. Talk about the opportunities that you have. What is your target group? What kinds of things do you specifically do? And what is your message to young people today?
Well, so we start a lot of times talking about your legacy. And your legacy is not something that you leave for somebody, but something that you leave inside of somebody. And oftentimes I feel driven by what my brother left in me. The work that we do, we focus on children, young boys in middle school and high school going off to college. My biggest message is to teach them how much value and worth that they have. I see too many of them hold their heads down, sagging their pants, and it doesn't seem like a lot of them want a lot out of life. And I believe that when you get behind them, and that same organization you mentioned that my father and you are part of, the biggest thing that stuck out to me is what they see is what they'll be. And I often think about the example that I give, the example that my counterparts give. They're looking to us. They're looking for somebody to look up to. And if we don't give it to them, somebody out in the streets will. Yeah. And I figure if we can make that difference and teach these young boys how valuable they are, they'll hold their heads up, they'll walk more upright, they'll respect their teachers, they'll accomplish their assignments in the classroom, and they'll have more sense of pride in who they are. And if they get upset about something, the last thing they want to do is hurt their brother. They can talk it out. They can fight it out. They can do whatever they have to do, but they don't have to resort to violence and end somebody's life.
That's right. That's right. And perpetuate that cycle,
yes,
which is a vicious cycle. I like to talk to people who are on the inside about what young people are struggling with today. It's one thing to be in a group and say, hey, we got to go help our young kids. It's another thing to start a foundation that actually puts you front and center with these young kids. As you talk to them, what kind of struggles are they having? What are the things that they're concerned about? And how can we best position ourselves to support them?
The biggest thing that I see is, I didn't realize before I did it, how big of an impact not having your father around has. A lot of these young guys, their behavior is crying out for the affection and the attention of their dads. They want to talk to their dads more often. They want their dad to be proud of them. You know, they have their mothers, but a lot of these young boys are really looking for their attention from their dad. That's the biggest one that I see. That I see is started with a lot of anger, a lot of behavioral problems in the classroom. Outside of that, that's the biggest one. We struggle with mental health. We've had some of them that have thought about suicide, and that's been a problem with that age group. We've also struggled with their academics, their inability to stay focused because they rather stay up on and play video games than do their work. But the biggest one I would see is our community needing more men that are willing to take a stand and actually do the work rather than sit around and talk about the work that needs to be done.
How do you press forward? How do you recharge? How do you find the strength from one day to the next to keep doing what you're doing? Because it's not easy.
It's not. The way that I do it is I have a big painting of my brother in my living room. And anytime I feel upset or I feel tired or I feel like, man, this is taking everything out of me, I look at him. My brother doesn't have an opportunity to breathe another day. He's never going to walk this earth again. And this foundation is named after him. And I feel like this work, which is my way of honoring who he was and showing how much I love him, is that much worth it to me. These young guys, I've made a commitment to them. And the biggest thing that I don't want to do is turn my back or not be consistent with young people who have already experienced inconsistency.
And yet, you have a full-time job.
I have a full-time job, yes,
How do you balance those things?
It's tough, right? I spend a lot of time planning, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for the fact that I have a strong team, right? Our foundation, you don't really see a lot of them, but they do a lot of work behind the scenes. They help plan, they help organize a lot of the events. They show up, they work tirelessly because they believe in the mission that this foundation has.
Yeah, and that's so important. I know that's got to provide an awful lot of inspiration
Yes.
when you have that commitment from others as well. You got a big event coming up that's going to help support the Jarrod Michael Lockett Foundation as well as Crisis Services of North Alabama. Well, I should say Family Services of Huntsville, as well as their homicide survivors group.
Yes.
Talk about that initiative for a moment.
So on November 16th, we're going to have a 5K run against violence. And Kim and I sat around. She's the director of the Homicide Survivors Program. We thought about ways that we could collaborate. And we said, you know, we have 5Ks for every cause that you could think of, but we haven't seen one against violence and homicide. And we decided to go ahead and speak out against that, as it seems in a lot of ways that's the big thing across the country are violent crimes and gun violence. And we wanted to speak out and give people an opportunity to become educated on what nonprofits are in this community, what resources you have available, mental health, nonprofits that are here. We're going to bring out first responders, police officers. But the big thing is just really to get this community to come together because a lot of things seem to be dividing us. But when you bring people together, more often than not, you find that you have a lot more in common than you do different.
And that coming together and bringing people together, I'm sure, with this very challenging subject, must certainly have a lot to do with the whole notion of let's increase awareness of the challenges that we face, but also let's make people aware of the resources that exist in our community. Like you mentioned, a lot of the young kids today thinking about committing suicide, thinking about retaliating, failing in school, or having trouble at home and in their community. And there's so many things out there for them to support their success. They may not know about it. So this is a way for people to come together.
Yes, sir. And you think you have a community of individuals who've raised children before, successfully raised children. You have nonprofits, you have all these outreach groups. So if you're a parent and you feel like this job is daunting and this is too much, there are so many opportunities and so many resources out here available to you. And we want to make sure that everyone is exposed to those on those days.
Yeah, I just think this is an awesome opportunity. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of 5K runs and walks that take place in the community, but this will be the first one that specifically focuses on this particular message. So again, let's tell people where it is, when it is, and how they can get more information about it.
Okay. So the 5K is going to be downtown Huntsville. We're going to start right in front of the lumberyard. That's on Meridian Street. And it's going to be right there. The website is the foundation, Jarrod M. Lockett Foundation, or Jarrod JML Foundation on Facebook. We're also on Eventbrite. It's $25 per runner. We also encourage you, if you sign up as a team, 5 runners, the cost will be $100. So you'll run $20 per runner. The money will go to the Jarrod M. Lockett Foundation, the Homicide Survivors Program, and also to some of these other nonprofits that support the community.
To continue doing the great work that you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Jarrod, this partnership that you have with the Homicide Survivors Program is so important because so oftentimes a homicide becomes a news story to the general public, but it's a very personal story to those who are impacted. And there are people who have to go on beyond that. You're walking that journey right now, but there's so many more people in this community, which is why this run is so important, and for people to find out about it, to find out more information, to tap you for what you know about your foundation and how they can help, to tap into family services and the Homicide Survivors Program, because there are many things that impact a person once the story stops playing on TV. And so, again, we want people to know that they can support this effort, and that by supporting it, they're supporting the initiatives that you all are working on. That's outstanding. Once again, if people want to learn more about the Jarrod Michael Lockett Foundation, tell them, I know we've given them information about the run, but once again, if they want to learn more about what you're doing and how they can support what you're doing, how would they reach out to you?
We have a website. It's JarrodMLockettFoundation.org. We're also on Facebook if you just type in Jarrod M. Lockett Foundation, or you can simply type in JML Foundation. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at JML_Foundation. And
you keep people up to date on things that are going on.
Constantly updated.
That's a good thing. You know, this is righteous work. That's the way I kind of define these kinds of things, because the opportunity that one has to move beyond a tragedy could either lead them down one path, which is a dark path, or lead them to a path that provides light, not just for themselves, but for others. And clearly the path that you've chosen has provided light. So my hat's off to you for what you've done, and certainly want to, through these mechanisms, continue to be supportive of the work that you're doing.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to come, not only to share the story, but to let the community know of the events that we have coming up. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. One more time, give them that contact info.
Again, our website is JarrodMLockettFoundation.org, Facebook.com/JML Foundation, and also at JML_Foundation on Instagram and Twitter.
All right. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Justin Lockett, he's the founder of the Jarrod Michael Lockett Foundation, an organization, as I said earlier, is doing righteous work. That's good work. That's work that's robust, hearty, and beneficial for our community.